Hi, Brina. Just trying to find my post from last week so I can post into it. How are you doing today? I know I'm a few minutes early. Hi, Christine. Thanks for joining. So I thought I would show you guys these in case you missed them yesterday. I did a video and I put it on YouTube for this. And then I'm going to pin this to the top so it will be easier to find. Okay, it's not loaded yet. So I did a video on these yesterday. These are really cute. As soon as I post it, I just want to post this link for today. Hello, Lisa. It's a good morning. Awesome. That's great to hear. Same here. Thank you for sharing, Linda. All right, I'm not sure if it's going to let me. From cooler and windy. Well, that must mean it's coming this way, Donna. We're going camping this weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. It is rainy and today. Good evening. Hi, Shannon. You must be over on the other side of the world over there in the UK or Australia or something. Thank you guys for the shares. All right, so it's not letting me post into, let's see, where's this one? Okay. All right. Follow this link. I'm pasting the other link into last week's just in case you missed it, since I'm on a different day. Western Australia, awesome. That's very cool. I'm not going to do my terrible Australian accent for you because you probably would cry with laughter. All right, let me see so I can follow this along. So we're going to be doing a Brayer card. I'm not going to delay too much because I don't want to sit here and jibber jabber, but I did want to share that. Another wonderful morning. Thanks, Denise. Thank you so much. First time catching you live. Awesome. Thank you. Doober-doo. I love your doggy picture. That's too cute. Okay, so these I did a video on yesterday. I'm just going to show you just quickly. This is a great idea for a gift card holder. So you just slide the belly band off, and then you can put some adhesive tape here, or you can put some Tombow to make it sticky, and then you can just put your gift card right on there. So super easy. You could do it with rounded corners or you could do it with straight corners, but this Joyous Noel DSP is just gorgeous. So it really was hard to choose which side. So each one I did side with the copper. So I thought these were really fun. And then I also have a video that I'm still getting all the dimensions and everything together for. This will be posting later on today to make these really cute little hand sanitizer holders. So this one I'll just show you to open up. It's got a little mini Young Living, if anyone's familiar with this hand sanitizer, so it fits in there perfectly. And then I just decorated it with a little bit of a Halloween flair. I'm going to give one of each of these to my son's teachers at school, so I thought they were really cute. Very simple to make. Hey, Tammy, thanks for joining. So those were easy. And then I have another card, and I'm not going to show you the card, but I'm going to show you. Someone asked me to make a gift card holder, hence why I made this other gift card holder. But she asked me if I had any gift card holders, and this is one I made last year. So the gift card actually slides in here. So I did an updated version. This does stand up, so it's really cool. I did an updated version of this. So this will post tomorrow. It's really, really cool. I did them two different ways. One of them is with gold, and one of them is like a traditional Christmas. So really, really fun. And then today, we're going to be using the Dandelion Wishes stamp set. So I was looking for a couple ideas. We're going to do this with Memento. Another idea I do have is that you could also do this on white cardstock, and you could heat emboss it with Versamark would be really cool, and then you could do an emboss resist with your brayer. So that's another good idea, depending on how long this takes us today. I don't know if we're actually going to finish a card or not, but maybe we can do it both ways and see. But I just got this stamp set in. This actually I think was on back order for a while because it was so popular. But I've seen so many great cards with the Dandelion Wishes. But if we do it in black, it'll kind of be like that shadow card, which we used to have that gorgeous stamp set that had the reeds and the Black-Eyed Susan. So I really missed that one. That one's really neat. But I saw a great idea with this. And I also have a couple colors out that I wanted to try for the card that I saw. So I have Daffodil Delight, Granny Apple Green, and then Bermuda Bay. You could switch this with a different blue if you wanted to. Maybe if you wanted to swap out to Pacific Point would be another one, but I think this one will look really cool. It's going to be very bright, and especially with the black dandelion against it. We'll see how that turns out. And I have pulled out my old rubber brayer today to do this with. I did get my Simply Chamois all wet so I can clean this off, and then I have some baby wipes. Morning, Rhonda. Thanks for joining. And the other thing is, so Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell this any longer. I will post a link where you can find this on Amazon. But, or you might have yours. So if you have yours, then you're in luck. You don't even need to get one. But Stampin' Up! Does carry a sponge brayer. So this one, I will say, gives you a little bit lighter of an effect when you use it. Whereas this one is a little darker. One thing you do want to make sure is that you have a rubber brayer, because they also have one that's glass, and the glass brayer is very difficult to use. I tried that one. So make sure that you do have a rubber brayer, and it just pops right out, so you can just rinse it under the sink. But again, I'm going to clean mine off so I don't have to torture you by making you wait. So I'm going to put this on the side for now. And what we're going to do, we're going to start out with our colors. So you do want to make sure that you start from lightest to darkest. I was thinking of doing Daffodil Delight and then the blue, but then I thought it would make green. So I figured I was going to kind of go yellow, green, blue. So if you wanted more of a blue, you could. This is blue-ish. We'll say blue-green. And we'll see how this turns out. So I am going to use, instead of using regular Whisper white paper, I'm going to use the shimmer white cardstock, if you guys have some of that, because I think it will give you a nice all-over finish. If you haven't seen it, this probably is not going to show up at all, but it has like a very shimmery finish to it, hence the name shimmer white paper, but it's almost got like a glittery effect, but you really have to look at it to see it, but it really finishes cards with the brayer so beautifully. So we're going to use that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just trim 4 pieces down in case I make a whoopsie. Use that when you got the new ink colors. Oh yeah, I love those new ink colors too, by the way, Vicky. They are so cool. The ink color embossing powders, if you guys haven't seen them, they come all 5 of them in a pack. So you get Blueberry Bushel, Grapefruit Grove, Call Me Clover, Pineapple Punch, and Lovely Lipstick. So I'm just trimming this down to a base layer. So 4 by 5 1/4. That way I'll have 4 pieces in case I goof something up. And I keep these, sometimes I'll use these for sentiments, for scrap sentiments. So same thing again, I'm going to just trim this one down to 4. So if we do something really awesome today, this means I'll have 4 cards that I can give out instead of just 1. So I kind of gotten to the point too with card making, so I'll save all these pieces in case I need to add a sentiment to it. I've gotten to the point with card making where if I'm going to make 1, I make 2, because you always could use more than 1, right? All right, so this again is kind of a messy thing with your brayer. I am going to bring in, just for the sake of smoothness, my paper piercing mat. It doesn't matter if you get ink on it, you can wipe it off. So you could take this, you could cover it with grid paper. I'm just gonna get just some, I think I have some scrap paper here somewhere. Yep, I'm going to have a piece of scrap grid paper that I'm going to cover it with, only because I tend to make a mess and roll over the cards more than once, and I'm going to try to avoid ruining it if I can help it ahead of time. So thank you all for joining today. We had a little dilemma yesterday. Luckily, it just seems to be the battery on the car. I don't know why. It's not old. The battery's only 2 years old, but the battery died. So all seems to be in working order, thank God. And it wasn't $5,000 to fix, so that's always good because it is a 2010. But all is well, so that makes me happy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just do 1 card at a time for now. And I do have, like I said, I have my Simply Chamois. I have my baby wipes if I need them. And I have my, also, this is like a lint cloth that you would get at like automotive store. It's lint free, I should say. So this cleans your stamps off really well. I'm not sure how to do it with the brayer, so I think I'm going to do this first. But anyway, we're going to get started, and I'm going to just go over just a few things in case you have trouble with this. A couple things. Your brayer does need to be clean, so you want to make sure that it's clean when you use it. You also want to make sure that you don't ink it up too much, because that kind of tends when it gets to be goopy. So you're going to use either pad. It doesn't make a difference. You do want to make sure that your pad is inked well. This one is one that tends to dry out, so I'm going to add just a couple drops to it all around. This is also the old linen style pad, so they do tend to be just a little drier than the foam pads. So just a few drops. This is Daffodil Delight that we're starting with. And when you do this, you want to use the wider side of your pad. That way you get more coverage on your roller at the same time. So, I know, believe me, I put in the sandbox all the time, Vicki, that they really love the old brayer, but if anybody is a demonstrator, or if you just feel like calling them up and saying it's 1-800-STAMP-UP, hey, bring back the rubber brayer. They have brought things back before, as very well seen with the one. They actually brought it out. They completely retired it, and they brought back that Woodlands folder. So there's hope. You never know. And they brought back a couple other things. So what you're going to do is you're going to start on your, this is a little loud too when you do it. When you're going to start on your ink pad, you're going to just keep rolling, and you want to roll all the way over, back and forth. So make sure you get the whole thing. And I'm not going back and forth like this. You're rolling all the way. So all the way top to bottom. It isn't the neatest technique, so prepare for dirty fingers. But if you're stamping with me, then you probably always have dirty fingers. Hey, Mary! Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of start at the bottom. And I'm going to roll from off of the paper onto the paper, okay? So just gently roll. And if you have lines, just keep rolling over. So as you see, where you have your lines is where the edge is. So what we'll do is we're going to just lightly roll this again. We're not going to get too much. And this time we're going to start at this side. So we're going to start over here. Just keep rolling. I'm going all the way off. I'm not going back and forth. Okay. So then we're going to take this. And normally if you were somewhere, you would kind of want to like wipe it off. So I'm going to pop it out. And if you're going to... Ooh, gotta be careful. Don't want to break it. If you're going to a darker color, it's probably okay, but you really don't want to contaminate your ink pad. So just kind of give it a wipe with either a wet paper towel, might be a little linty with a wet paper towel, a baby wipe, something like that. But rinsing it under the sink is also a great option. So now I'm going to move on to the Granny Apple Green. Hi, Marianne from Iowa. Thank you for joining. I have some different people here, I guess, because the time is different, right? I had to go pick up the other car this morning, so I didn't want to be too late. So that's why I figured 10:15 would give me enough time to drive, and it was like an hour and a half drive. All right, so for this one, only because it's a little inky, since this is so wet, what I'm going to do is before I actually brayer with this, I'm going to just roll it just to get a little bit of the ink off, which I know is going to mess up the other side of the card, but that's okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing. So starting off, okay, same thing again. I'm going to ink this. I'm trying not to press too hard when I'm inking, if that makes sense. So I'm just very lightly doing it with the foam pads. And same thing again. So this is a lot darker than I expected. The Granny Apple Green always surprises me with how dark it ends up being. Try it one more time. And up here doesn't really matter because we're going to cover this part. So I'm going to go off once more. And then I want to just kind of bring these lines together a little bit more. Okay. So Granny Apple Green. Better day for... Oh, well, there you go. You don't have cardio rehab. Well, all right. And you're still here. So that's awesome. So your cardio rehab is working out super well for you, which I'm glad to hear. All right. So I've wiped that off. And I'm actually going to just roll this a couple times. And then I'm going to do the Bermuda Bay. And I might go back and pick some lighter colors and try this one more time too, because this is a little darker than I anticipated it to be. So let's see. So same thing again. You want to make sure you go all the way over, because if not, if you can see how they have those light and dark spots on this. So roll it all the way back and forth, and then just roll it once or twice before you actually start. Yeah, that Granny Apple Green is super dark. So this one might have to be a little darker on the top. Yeah, so I'm not really getting my graduated lines as much as I wanted it to be. From what I had pictured in my head, not looking as good as I thought it was going to be. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this piece, we're going to set it on the side. Since I have my Bermuda Bay out, I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to grab another piece of paper, and I'm going to roll over with the Bermuda Bay, and I'm going to start with this one instead. Again, I'm going to do the same thing, so I'm going to roll this off a little bit before I start, just one. Oh, that's much nicer. All right, so that was my intention of what I wanted that to look like at the top. So what we'll do is we'll do this instead. So we'll do one more. Make sure I have this. One more of my Bermuda Bay. Just to make it just a little darker. Okay, this looks nicer. That's a much nicer saturation, which is what I was going for. So I'm going to close the Bermuda Bay. Oops. And I'm going to wipe this off again with my chamois. And I'm going to pop this out just to make sure I have it. Good morning from Northeast Ohio. You haven't seen the brayer before. Oh, Danette, you must be a newbie. And I say that in the nicest way because this is probably, oh, I bet you this is some people's favorite tool, right? But we just don't use it as much anymore now that that sponge brayer showed up. So I've cleaned off my brayer. As you see, my hands are already getting pretty inky. So kind of keep in mind that's probably going to happen. And I'm going to go with, ooh, what would be lighter? How about if we go instead, we'll swap out to Lemon Lime Twist because that's pretty light. Now, granted, this is very vibrant, very like primary colors, nice. And when it does dry, I don't know if you can see that, but I can see it up close. You can see the shimmer sparkling. There you can see it, the sparkle shining through. But it's just, that wasn't the color combination I was going for. So I'm going to try this instead with Lemon Lime Twist. So let me pull this down. Again, I'm not going to press super hard because I don't want this to be too dark. And I'm going to roll this off again before I start. And I just kind of flipped it upside down a little bit. Oh, that looks so much better. All right. And I'm going to roll this again just to get the edge here covered. This line right here, I want to kind of roll over. There we go. You can always go back in and add in some Bermuda Bay if you want, just depending on what you want to do. So that was a Lemon Lime Twist. Now, what I probably could have done also is maybe masked this bottom part here for my yellow. So that's another option as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in, what could we add in? I'm going to add just a little crushed curry. I'm going to see what it looks like. I don't know. This might ruin it. We might have to start over again. This would be like the video that never ends. The song that never ends and the video that never ends. Yeah, this might be a little dark, so let's see. No, that's not bad. It's kind of blending that color pretty nicely. I'll bring this up so you guys can see it. Okay, so same thing again. I'm going to just start in a different spot. Okay, now I will tell you one thing. If you did this directly on your table, as opposed to using the sponge, which we have here, or the paper piercing mat, you would get a lot more lines in it. So you do want to make sure that you're careful with that portion of it. I'm going to go ahead back in, and I'm going to add just a little bit more Bermuda Bay at the top. Just cleaning this off with my chamois, which is kind of nice. I'm just like rolling this back and forth on it. I'm going to do just a little bit more of the Bermuda Bay, just a really light roll. Whoops. Got away from myself. One more. Just to blend that a little bit. So it's a little bit more of a gradient. And now it's kind of muting out the bottom. All right. So that's number 2, which is kind of, it's okay. It's not my favorite. So what I'm going to do for this last one, because I want to do one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one while we're here. Put that in the ink pad. I'm going to do one in an emboss resist. So I'm going to do the Dandelion Wishes. So I'm going to save one paper for that. I'm going to do this one more time, but instead I'm only going to do 2 colors. You think you look right. Yeah. So we're not doing this at club. Is that what you're saying, basically? Too heavy-handed for a club class. It does take a little practice. That is for sure. All right. So I'm going to start with Lemon Lime Twist this time. And I'm going to grab just one more. I'm going to flip this over. Just like this. Oops. And you really, here's the one thing. So I could use this, but it's going to end up causing a wrinkle because of this. So you're going to want to make sure you stay on the paper. So instead of risking it, I'm just going to grab another scrap piece that I know I have and wrap this around it instead. All right, so put that on there. So I'm going to start again with the Lemon Lime Twist. I'm going to try to do it super light. Okay. And again, before I start, I am going to roll it off. And I'm going to do this lengthwise this time. And the more you roll, it will blend out your colors. I promise. It sounds counterintuitive. I'll put this one over here for now. But the more you roll, it will blend out your colors. So I'm going to bring this over. Just one more time, I'm going to roll this before I start just to get a little bit of that ink off. And I'm going to move it down just a smidge. Okay, so there will be that. So that's going to be Lemon Lime Twist. And then I have my Bermuda Bay. We'll do this a little bit more for the top. In front of a fire. Oh my goodness, Denise. That's amazing. I think we're destined for some of that weather this weekend. We're actually going camping. And I think it's supposed to be like 40 at night, which is, right now it's probably about 150% humidity. And it's probably about 75 degrees, which is very strange for October here in the Northeast, but not completely out of the question. So I'm going to roll this off, get a little bit of the ink off, and then I'm going to do the other side. Okay, and as you see, if you keep rolling, you will roll out all the lines, okay? Let me just move this over. Usually a Brayer Picasso. That's because I haven't brayered in so long. It's been too long since I've brayered. That's part of the problem, I think. Okay, I'm going to bring this in one more time, just a little darker. And you can go both directions. That's what happens. See what happens when you need to get your brayer out. You need to use it to be good at it. So all of you guys on here that are saying you're not great at brayering, because you're not brayering enough. Okay, so this one, ooh, whoopsie. This one I am happy with. I do like the color gradient of this. I know we have a couple lines down here, but we can work with that. That's no big deal. So what I'm going to do is this one is going to get set on the side. I'm going to close this ink pad out. And what we're going to do with this one, so this is my last piece, is I'm going to put some, the dandelions on here. We'll figure out a way to put these on here. We're going to emboss them. You can either use clear, since we're using white paper, or white. Your choice, doesn't make a difference. We're going to emboss them. We're going to let it dry, and then we're going to brayer over top of it and see what that looks like instead, since we've got, I have two duds here. Although, not to be rude, and I love Rhonda. Rhonda is in my club class. Rhonda is the one that introduced me to stamping. Rhonda loves things in bright colors, so some of those cards might be right up her alley, and she's probably thinking, well, just send them over to my house, and I'll make something with them. I'm sure she'll have something smart to say in a minute, so just hang in there, guys. You'll see her funny comments. I am going to get out my embossing buddy, and I'm going to just roll this over, since we're going to emboss onto this, just to cut down the static. Although it's so humid, I'm not really quite sure, but it doesn't seem to matter. No matter when you emboss, it could be dry as a bone, but as soon as you get out the embossing powder, the static appears. So always better to be safe than sorry. So I'm going to grab one of my coffee filters, and I'm going to grab, this is clear, so I'll just use clear today so you guys can see that. I always also have just some paint brushes handy. That way, in case there's a little oopsie that doesn't look good, we can just brush it off before we heat it. And I think what we'll do is, how about if we do this little trio, and then we'll just put this up blowing in the wind. That way we have kind of two different things. So I just got this one. I didn't pull the packing off of it yet. The gaudier, the better. There you go. There she is. Probably nice to be here on a Thursday, Rhonda, right? Instead, so you can give your full concentration. Normally, she has to kind of watch from work. So I'm going to grab these little flyaway guys, and then we'll put this over here. So we can, if we know what we want to do with this, go ahead and pull out, if I can find, I didn't bury it too deeply, hopefully. Go ahead and pull out our Stamparatus for this. Let me put this on the side. And for the Stamparatus, if you have clear mount stamps, you don't need the little foam piece, so you can take that out. So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and put our card, put this up here at the top so we can see exactly where we want it. And I'll grab my magnets, 2 different magnets here. So, whoopsie, there we go, there's one. So we're going to put the little flyaway dandelions, which I'm going to just rub these on my hands for a second since I haven't used them yet. Put the flyaway dandelion up top here, and then we'll put the little stems, we'll put them over here. Okay, I'm going to put this one up here too, just so it doesn't pull. I'm such a slacker. I still haven't ordered my grid paper for my Stamparatus since they came out with the grid paper. I haven't gotten the cool little snowflake set, which has some awesome white paper. Really, that's the one thing I'm interested in, if I'm being honest. They have this incredible white paper. I can't show it to you because I don't have it, and I haven't actually seen it, but it's kind of, it seems to be, if you were to make a guess, or if I were to make a guess, that it's like a white flocking. So when your snowflakes come out, like if you cut them out, it actually has like depth to it. So that should be super cool. All right, so I inked this up with Versamark, and I'm just going to close this. Just give it a good press. Okay. Let's see if I can. I'm going to ink it one more time, just because I'd rather be safe. It's very dark here today because it's super rainy, so it's kind of hard to see if things are or aren't on there. Okay. Oh, don't be sorry you're late. I'm just glad you're here. Thanks for stopping in. Move these over. So I have my card here. I'm just going to close this up for now. Move this out of the way. Put my magnets away so I don't break them. And I'm going to sprinkle my clear embossing powder onto this. Okay. And I've seen a couple of the demonstrators who have been demos for a long time, specifically Dawn Griffith. If you guys have ever seen some of her jars of embossing powder that she has, they're like the size of my hand. I'm kind of jealous how big they were in the beginning, which is pretty cool. I think she said that she's had them for like ever, and they still haven't run out. But even with these smaller jars, I mean, I've had this clear jar for, I can't even tell you how long. It still has plenty in it. It has even more in it if you don't spill it all over your desk like I just did. Okay, so I'm going to fold this up. Just tuck this in. And we're going to heat this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn my heat gun on, and I'm going to let it really warm up before I hit it. That way it won't warp the paper as much and it'll melt faster. So bear with me. Dawn is fun to watch. Her and her glitter pit. She's always a hoot. Alright. Yeah, you can always go back and watch. It'll be on there, no worries. So my heat tool is very hot, so I'm going to go ahead and just melt this embossing powder. You can do it from both sides to save a little bit on your wrinkling of your paper. That one looks pretty good. And just keep moving it around. You heat your whole entire paper. It'll help to keep it a little bit straighter. One thing I'll admit, I forgot to check to see if I needed to dust anything off, so I don't know if we have any little wayward pieces, but it is a dandelion, so we can just pretend like it's dandelion fluff. Okay, so that's kind of hard to see, but that's the clear. So really the white really honestly wouldn't look too much different because it's on white paper. So I'm going to just hang that up and have that here. That looks very nice. So now if you're concerned with this, it is a little bit wavy, which is fine, even though you might end up with a little bit of more of a line from your wrinkling of the paper. It's okay. It's really, like I said, I put that post on there the other day. If you send someone a card, I don't really think they're going to be critiquing whether or not your paper's a little bit liney or funny. So don't worry about that. So I'm going to do this time directly onto my mat without the paper. And I'm going to start with a really light yellow just to see what it looks like. So again, this is a linen pad. So this one you could press a little harder, and that's probably why I was pressing a little harder, because of having the linen pads. It used to be a little bit more difficult to pick up the ink, although that looks pretty nice there. And before I ditched it, I have my scrap paper here. I'm going to just roll this once before I go onto this. So we'll do this at the bottom. Okay, I'm going to do that one more time. Okay, so there's that. That's good enough. That's so saffron. I don't want to make it too dark. And I probably could have gone with Daffodil Delight is a little bit more of a bright yellow too. So if that's something you want, this looks a lot darker in person than it does on camera. So you guys are probably thinking, what, doesn't even look like there's anything on there. But when I think it's just the lighting today is not fantastic with the dark. You hope I use my dud backgrounds anyway. No, my goodness, I'll try to use them. The other cool thing is you can always, like Rhonda's saying, you can add something dark to them if there's like a spot that you don't really love that you want to cover up. What I'm going to do, speaking of, is I'm going to take some Post-it notes and I'm going to just cover the bottom here. Just for a fresh spot of inking. We'll see what this looks like. Again, just kind of fooling around. It's been a while since I've had this out. I am going to stick with, do I want to do this lemon lime twist? Yeah, we'll stick with the lemon lime twist. We've used this, so we'll see what it looks like. So same thing again, I clean my brayer. Now this is a foam pad, so you definitely want to be a little lighter handed with this. Okay, and I'm going to roll this off once before. And same thing again. I'm going to flip it this time. So I'm going to start more from the bottom. Okay. And do one more little one. Alright, so that's enough because I don't want it to get too dark. And then I'm going to stick with Bermuda Bay because I do really like these colors together. I think they're just ending up wonky. I'm not really quite sure why, but yeah, definitely. Well, Letha, it's a great idea to heat from both sides if you're using your embossing powder because it heats the underside of it too. So I'm going to peel these off. Okay, throw those in the garbage. All right, and then I'm going to ink my brayer again. This is Bermuda Bay. It's kind of funny too, in an ironic sort of way. Today is my mom's birthday. So my mom would have been 60, what year is it? 65 today. But she passed away, geez, 4 years ago it's been already. So it's kind of ironic that I ended up doing this video today on her birthday. I'm going to go ahead in with my Bermuda Bay and bring this to the bottom. And I'm going to bring it just a little darker on the bottom there. Because I wasn't sure what I was going to do today because the Rainbow Stamper guy is at his other grandmom's house, which ironically her birthday is today too. Isn't that crazy that my mom and my mother-in-law had the same birthday? So he is spending the day with her. So I'm spending the day with you guys. All right, one more cover up there. All right, I'm going to tell you, the way this is blending is making me sad. It's not turning out as pretty as I thought it was going to be. So we do still have that emboss resist there, which is kind of giving like a little shadowy effect to it. So let me grab this is just my like little towel, and I'm going to buff off the edges so this pops a little bit more. kind of cleans the pop of the dandelions. All right, so there we have. Not the best gradient. Oof. It's not my best day with the brayer. I am way out of brayer practice. Make me sad. I think the best one we have so far is this one, which is still savable. This one's a little dark. We could always punch some stuff out of this too. That would be really fun. Same with this one. You could always pop out a background out of it. We could even put that into our embossing folder and we can emboss over top of it. That'd be really cool too. All right, so we have this one here, which is kind of still not really my favorite. My lines aren't working out for me today. I'm wondering if I don't... One other tip, and this is if you have two of these, and I'm only thinking because I can tell the way the lines are with the lines in my table. You might want to do this on a double pad if you have one. You could always give it a try. So if you're still getting a lot of lines and you don't really love it, oh, Janet, I'm sorry. I feel your pain. Yeah, I understand. I wasn't even 40, so that was really hard too. That she was young and I was young, and with the rainbow stamper guy being a baby, he was a rainbow stamper baby at that point. But that's okay. We're still here, happy, hanging in there, making cards that have a lot of lines in them. So I'm gonna finish this one, and we're gonna do this with black. So let me grab, I have my stamps here that I didn't pull out. I'm going to grab my stamps out, the dandelion, a nice dandelion wish card. And I'm going to just wipe these off with my chamois. And then we're going to add these in black, because I think that's going to be really cool. And I don't know if I'm going to use the cluster or the one where they're blowing away. So let me see, where did I put, here it is. I think I might do this one with the blowing and then put the couple more of them up over in black. I think that'll look really pretty, because this one has the ones where they're kind of blowing away, so that's really cute. So maybe we'll do that one. And we'll do this kind of in the same way like we could do it with that. It would be more like the grass at the bottom and the sky at the top, since it's kind of the way it's laid out. So let's do that in black. We'll add these couple little extra wishes blowing up, and then we'll figure out how we're going to layer this and what we're going to turn it into. So let's see. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the little ones on here first, and we're going to do those in Memento, and then we'll go back and we'll put this big one on. So we'll do it that way. Just that way we kind of have it laid out the way we want. Okay, so we have that here. Oh my goodness. Well, we're all in a crazy club here, aren't we, Mary? Well, all of you who are still here after surviving, right? That's what you have to do. You have to keep on going, because somebody's depending on you to keep on going. That's what I always think with my son. I know it makes me sad that he only has one grandmother, but at the same time, at least he has one grandmother. Okay, so I have this inked up in Memento, and I'm going to put these up here in the top, just pressing lightly. So we have those there. And what I think I might do, just to make this a little darker for the other part, is I'm going to go ahead and pop this other one into the Stamparatus. That way, if I decide I want it darker, it'll be really simple just to re-stamp it. So let me put this one. Let me see the way I like to do this. I usually do mine. I know sometimes people have some issues with using the Stamparatus because it doesn't have the corners in it the way a Misty would, for example. So what I usually do is I just line it up the opposite way of where I'm stamping. So if I'm stamping something over here on this side, I'll put the edge to that. That way I know exactly where it is. So it's going to go to the line up top here. And then what I'll do is I'll put my magnet up here to hold it. And then I'll put this in so it's holding it to the edge. So let's go with that. I'm going to put this over just a smidge. And same thing again, you do have to press to pick it up. You would have to do that with the Misty as well. So we're going to take our Memento and we're going to ink it. Okay, and I'm going to press. I want to press lightly because I see one of them got a little goopy. You can always add more. Yeah, that one that I had on there got a little goopy. So let me wipe this before I do it once more. kind of end up looking like a crazy dandelion. I love this stamp set too. I was so going to buy it in the beginning, and then I never got it. And then the other week, I was doing an order, and I thought, why don't I get that? I love that stamp set. I just never got it. Yeah, I'm being a little too dark with this. Let me lighten this up once. All right, same thing again. I'm just going to close and press. Also probably has to do with the way that we brayered. If this paper is just slightly wet still, it will take the ink differently than if it was dry. So a lot of factors in mind. You can always let these dry before you stamp. There we go. Let these dry out before you stamp. So aside from this one where I kind of got a little goopy, that looks really nice. It's very detailed. It's very thin. You can see all the wisps popping off. But if your paper that you're stamping onto is still a little bit damp, it always will take the ink differently. So you absolutely could brayer a whole bunch of cards, let them all set aside to dry, and then go back and add your dark images in if that's something that you want to do. So that's always a really good idea. Same thing with if you do watercoloring and you just think you're an awful watercolorer and how could you ever possibly do anything that's pretty? Let it dry and walk away. It looks completely different. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Let me put this one so I don't forget it. And I think we should put this, so we have our one layer here. We might be able to trim a little bit off and layer this twice. I think I'm going to do that because I think it makes it have a little bit more depth to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a hair off of this. I'm going to trim this down to be 3, see if I can get it to be 5 without cutting my dandelion. I'm going to might cut a little bit from both sides. So I'm going to make this to be 5, just a little bit off of here, by, if I can get, this should be 4. I'm going to see if I can squeeze it to 3 3/4. I might take a little off the top and then a little off the bottom. There you go. That'll work out just perfectly. So 3 3/4 by 5. I cut that down to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to layer this onto a white panel and then onto a black card base. So I do have a piece of Whisper White here. Again, another idea for you to try is to try out the different whites. I will say that, so I'm going to trim this one to 5 1/4 by 4. So that's going to layer here. And then we're going to put this onto a black base. So it's kind of framing it really well. But try the different whites when you are making your brayer card, because you may not like the shimmer white as much as I normally do, I will say. You might like Whisper White. The thick Whisper White is going to also look completely different than the other white. So it really just depends on what you're going for. So I'm going to do this one as a long way. So I scored that at 4 1/4, and then I'm going to cut it at 5 1/2. And then this one is going to layer onto that. So really makes those colors pop. Isn't that awesome? Okay, and then you have another piece you could use for something else. I'm going to take one of these other cards and work with it. So I'm going to go ahead and layer these together. I don't know what kind of sentiment I'm going to add thus far. Just a tip, I'm not going to do this now, but if you don't want to waste this whole piece of paper, you could cut, if you knew you were going to cut something, you could punch some circles out of it that you maybe could use later, or you could cut some die cut shapes out of it or something. So just an idea. I know a lot of times people are trying to be very thrifty with their paper consumption, and I 100% am right there with you and agree. If you can save yourself some paper, why not? We did that the other week with our leaves that we cut out. So I'm going to go ahead and then take this. I'm going to put it back onto the black. That way I don't smudge it on the thing if anything is wet. And add some adhesive to it. Okay. And then make sure it's facing the correct direction. And then we're going to layer this onto the black. Okay, just like that. There we go. So that is really pretty. And then all we have to do is add a sentiment to it. So this ends up, it does really pop. It makes it super with the white and the black layer. And that's something else. My friend Donna, she shares a lot of cards and a lot of card ideas with me, and she did something really nice the other day. The layers on it were so pretty. And it's funny because if you really struggle with designing a card, add a layer to it, cut it down one, and you can really see that shimmer now is starting to show. If you can see that right here in the top of this, you can see the shimmer paper showing through once it starts to dry a little bit more. But that's a great way to add something to a card. Just add another layer to it. So with this card here, or with this one here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this up here because I don't really know what kind of sentiment I want to add to this thus far. However, so we have these two here. So here's something crazy we can do. I'm going to grab my folders. Oh, sorry, I had to walk across the room. So I'm going to grab my folders, and while we're at it, let's just do something to this. So here's the stripe. We'll do that one. And what else do we have that's kind of like something kind of oh, the subtles folder. I know lots of people have seen that folder, but they don't exactly know what to do with it. This folder, they need to have such a better description of this in the catalog. It has a pattern on it that I really can't describe. It almost looks like, sometimes when I've done this, it makes it look like denim. It has a very, very light sheen to it, but this is one of those dynamic folders, so it's super fat. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the stripes folder and we're going to lay down some color on it, and we're going to run this through. We'll see what it looks like. And then the subtles folder, I'm going to just run this through just as it is to give it a little bit of dimension and see what it looks like. Okay, so we're going to take this, just put this paper in, move a couple of things out of the way. Another quick idea, if you didn't want to run this through instead, you could take this and you could cut out like ovals or shapes, and you could use this as a background piece. You could do it with the ovals, with the squares, you could do it with the stitch shapes. Lots of possibilities for that. So when you do your dynamic folders, I'm just trying to make this so it's not going to be a gigantic mess here for you. You only need to use, you got your Big Shot, you take your Big Shot platform, your folder, and one pad. That's it. Because otherwise it will not go through and you could break your Big Shot. So I'm going to just reline this up, put this through. Just like that. So you just have your sandwich of those three things and then crank it through. This, no, isn't it amazing, Marianne? This is like, they need to do a video. So it's very difficult to see this because of the color, but you can see it gave like another pattern to it. So it almost hides the lines a little bit. The way it's laying on there. It's not so easy to see. You can see it more on this side, the effect that it gives to it. But it's so cool. It's really, really neat. They need to have a video where they actually show people what this looks like, or a sample in the catalog would be even better, right? All right, I'm going to move this over just for a second. And what we're going to do is we're going to add some ink to this. And what I'm going to add is, I'm going to add navy. I don't know why. We'll see if it looks terrible or if it's a good idea. But I'm going to add navy to this. So Night of Navy. And so when I was speaking earlier about Donna, she was telling me that when she does these to the, like direct to folder, it makes it really dark. So an idea she had was, if you use the sponge brayer, so we'll use the sponge brayer and we'll see what it looks like. And you add ink to the folder instead. So you could do this with your sponge. You could do it with sponge daubers. You could do it with your sponge brayer. But it adds a nicer layer. So I'm going to just go one more time just so we have enough. Because you can really only run this through one time without it risking getting lines in it. There we go. So sponge brayer. And again, we did this with Night of Navy. And I'm going to lay this. Oops. I'm going to lay this down. Okay, I want to make sure the lines are all the way on, so I am lining it up so it matches with the lines. I'm going to close it. Okay, and I'm going to hold on to this because I have to bring the Big Shot back and I have to put all the other layers back into it. And while I'm at it real quick, I'm going to just wipe this off. Okay, so you're going to have your Big Shot platform, your thin die adapter, your plate, your folder, and then your other plate for cranking this one through. So hopefully we'll see if this makes this better. Oops, you know what? You don't need your thin die adapter. I fibbed. So Big Shot platform, 2 plates, and then you put your folder in the middle. So I'm going to crank this through. And we'll see. This makes it better, if it makes it worse. Alright. Well, it made it interesting, didn't it? So it's got like a dark hue to it. And for some reason, when I did my layer of ink, I didn't match up there at the bottom. But still, something we could let this dry. We could punch that and use it in the background. And, oh, that didn't fall. Take just you can either take your Simply Chamois or you can just take a towel and wipe this off. And then later when you get to the sink, you can just rinse it underwater. It does not hurt your folders whatsoever. They are made to rinse clean. So even, I've never done it with black, but whatever color you do it with, I have never had a color, even with, I used early espresso and I forgot to wash it off right away and it still did not stain it. So you definitely want to rinse it underwater, absolutely, but there we go. That is completely doable with your folders. All right, let me scoot this over. And I'm going to just show you one other thing you could do with this. So you could take this piece, you could use a punch and you could punch this out. You could lay this onto a card just as it is. You could stamp your, just a sentiment. So we could just stamp sending well wishes your way. We could do this one. Where's that one here? Sending well wishes your way. And this is another thing I like to do. So you could use either of these as a background, right? So here's your 2 choices. Where is my scrap? I have a scrap of white here. So I'm going to take my black. Actually, I'm not going to do it in black. I'm going to do it in Versamark. This is going to be one more thing I'm going to heat set real quick. So I'm going to ink this up in Versamark. Okay. While I'm at it, I'm going to do a good job. I'm going to add my embossing buddy. Okay, I'm going to stamp this. And it doesn't really matter where we stamp it because we're going to cut it out. Okay, I have my coffee filter back out. Just gonna grab, you could do this in silver. You could even do this in some of the really fun embossing powder bunches. You could do this in a make your own embossing powder. There's silver, gold. Come on, where's the black? There we go, black. They did bring the black back, so the black embossing powder, that was gone for a while. They brought that back as well, though. And then we'll just sprinkle this. Give it a shake. Again, we are going to trim this, so those little spots there, you can dust them off if you like. Pull this up. And here's my paintbrush, so if you wanted to, you could just flick these little pieces off before you heat it. Okay, I'm going to grab my heat gun again, turn it on, let it run. There we go, very crisp with the black on white. I really, really, really would say if I have 2 of my favorite embossing powders, it would probably be clear because you can make it look like any color that you want, or black. So I'm going to let this just dry just for a second because I have done that before where I've smudged it on my hands and it does not feel good. So I'm going to just trim this. Trim this out. And then what I'll do is I'll just follow kind of the pattern of the word. So this one's a little bit more straight. And then we'll come and wrap this around in a kind of like a soft squiggly way. Same thing, I'm going to straight for this one. And then wrap around the S. Bring it in. straighten it back out again. So we have just that, just a little quick fussy cut. That wasn't really all that much. And then we'll do the same thing again. So I have my piece of black. This was the other piece that I saved from the other half that we cut. Take our bone folder, make a nice crease. You can add this on just like that. Some snail on the back. Since this does have some dimension to it, make sure that you use a good amount of snail, or Tombow liquid glue would be even better. Another thing you could do to this if you weren't using shimmer paper is you could add a little shimmer paint to one of your spritzers and spritz it so it has a nice shimmer to it. And then I want to trim this up just a little bit more, so it's a little closer. And just to make it pop, sometimes I would take this where I would outline it with a pen. You could do that if you wanted to in one of the lighter colors. So you could do it with crushed curry, which I think we went over, because we'll put this on the darker colored side. We're just going to outline it. Kind of makes it stand out a little bit. Ties everything together. Okay. And I'm going to put this on with a dimensional. These are the mini ones. I'm not going to use one of those. I have the big ones. I use even the square parts. So if you don't have any more on the side, if you don't have any more in the middle, just cut these out. You can layer these right on there. Or if you have your strips, you could add strips to it. And then you could put a nice sentiment, sending well wishes your way. Really simple. You could take your Whisper white layer. Oops, it's a little bit crooked. You could take your Whisper white layer that you're going to add on the inside and add, I'm going to just show you real quick. That way at least you got 2 cards worth of something, even though those other ones were very painful to watch in the beginning. But we did end up using them. So here's a Whisper white layer. And what we'll do is we'll take this one, because this one's super cute. We'll take this, we'll add this to the inside. That way it'll just finish up the inside. And I'm going to do this again with Memento. This must be super, super, super wet, because my one end is really goopy and the other one isn't. All right, so I'm going to put this right here. And worst case scenario, if that messed up, that's why I don't put these in until I'm done, because you can flip it over and use the other side. So I'll just put some snail here, add this to the inside. When this is dry, another fun thing you could do if you wanted to, let me just hit this real quick with the heat tool. Normally you want to let that dry because it does make your paper curl, but just for purposes of showing you, another fun thing you could do, just to add a teeny pop of color, you could grab yourself a sponge dauber and add, where is my Daffodil Delight? You take this and add just a little bit, just to the center. Little pop of color there. Swirl out. You could follow them if you wanted to. Just like that. And then another cool thing is, of course, a little wink of Stella. That way they're like floating on the breeze of the wink of Stella. I think my wink of Stella is in need of another wink. But super cute. So this was the dud. This really doesn't look so bad now, quite honestly. Dud in my opinion anyway. And then this is the other one. This one I'm going to wait to add a sentiment to because I'm not really quite sure. But they're going different directions. You can play around with different paper. We have this one that we ended up with as well, that you could do something with adding your layers to it. We have this one, which the way it turned out, not 100% pleased with that one. So that's why I didn't do anything with it yet. But I can always go back and do something with it. That way we can see what it looks like after the fact. Another suggestion, if this is something you're going to do, is you just have to be careful with the way the colors are in the paper. So this might have been better on a thicker paper. That could have been a better possibility. But anyway, thank you guys very much for joining me and for bearing with me on a completely different day. I will be back again next Wednesday, barring we don't have any more issues with the cars. And I'll share something new with you. If you guys have any ideas or suggestions or something you want to see done, please let me know. I will tell you one thing, that I'm going to do some more cards with my brayer so I can get back into practice again and maybe give you some guys some other new tips on how to make your brayer work a little bit better for you. And that's it. If you have any questions, you can send me an email at rachthestamper@gmail.com. If you'd like to get any of these supplies, you can get all of these and more in my online store 24/7, rachthestamper.stampinup.net. And there is a hostess code. If you add that in, I do have some specials. You can find those on my blog at rachthestamper.com. Thanks, guys, for watching. I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you soon.